This morning we had an oddity happen here at the homestead. I've seen this gentleman walking through the neighborhood last week. I thought I knew where he lived, and there was just something odd about him. So I saw him come down our road. I was out feeding the tomatoes, doing some stuff here in the front yard. And there was just something odd, right? And I saw him go over to my neighbor's house and knock on her door. And she was home. She answered the door. I didn't hear their conversation, but they had an exchange. Then he come over to me, wanted to talk about how pretty my garden was. And so I asked him, I said, where do you live? He said, well, I'm homeless. I said, well, what's your name? He said, Travis. So my neighbor across the street over here came to me the other day and said somebody had been going through his vehicle in the night. And then this afternoon I talked to my neighbor over here. He said somebody had been through his vehicle. And so I had a conversation with Mr. Travis before I called the police, and I told him that homeless doesn't live here. Homeless lives somewhere else. And there's a bunch of you people out there that's gonna try to give me a hard time about this. They tell me I'm not compassionate. But listen to me. Here's my encouragement. There's one person responsible for this household, and that falls on my shoulders to protect this property and protect my wife. That doesn't fall on anybody else's shoulders. That is nobody else's responsibility. So before you go saying that I'm not compassionate or that I'm not loving my neighbor, I am loving my neighbor. But I let Mr. Travis know there was no reason for him to be here, and the expectation was for him to not ever be here ever again. Look at that. Look at that. You better go on now. Look at that. It's because I didn't pick them yesterday. Y'all probably think I'm crazy, but I'm serious as I can be. If you don't pick them every day, they get too big. I see one over there. See? You miss them. You miss them. You miss a cucumber and it just gets massive, especially when you get some rain. When I was a kid, we didn't have cultivated thornless blackberries. My mother would get our old socks and she would cut the tips out of the fingers on those socks. And that's what protected our hands and our arms. Some socks would come up to here, tube socks, okay? They would come up to here. That's what protected us from the thorns. And we would go out to the cemetery where we lived. And why did we go to the cemetery? I tell you why. Because when they would dig those graves, right, that excavator would pull that dirt out, right? Some dirt went back in the hole, but here in South Georgia, you have to put a vault in the ground, and then the casket goes in the vault. Well, those vaults are pretty big, and they take up a lot of space. So a lot of that dirt that came out of that grave went and got piled up down the side road at the cemetery. And these wild blackberries would grow on those piles. So it made it a little bit easier They didn't get so crowded, and it was a good place. It was a good place for blackberries to grow, and so we would go to the cemetery early in the morning while it was still cool, and we would pick wild blackberries. The whole family, okay, mama, daddy, my brothers, well, most of my brothers. There was some that just weren't present, right? So yeah, we would go to the cemetery and we would pick blackberries for most of the morning, and we'd pick a big old pan, right? And this bowl ain't nothing. It would be a big pan of blackberries, and my mother would juice those blackberries. A part of them she'd put in the freezer for cobblers, but then she would juice a big portion of those blackberries and make seedless blackberry jam. And I really miss that. I'm gonna make some of that this year. We love that you've chosen Pruitt Homestead to spend time with out of your day. You know, folks, out of all things in this world, time is the thing that you'll never get back. If there's something in your life that is taking joy away from you, and if that's a job, an activity, maybe a family member, it's biblical to cull things from your life, to get rid of it. Make the decision today that that thing no longer has a place in your life. Y'all, we love you. We thank you for being here. Keep us in your prayers. Y'all take care. Bye.